Hi everyone. So my only groom today left, and I've got another couple hours to go. So I figured that I would make a quick video on something that um, I don't think I've ever really heard anybody say before. And this video is going to be a video about why you shouldn't feed your dog a raw food diet. So anybody who has watched my other videos knows that I'm very pro raw food. Um, my dogs eat raw food. My cat is a little iffy about raw food. She's kind of getting there. And there are so many reasons why you would want to feed a raw food diet. But there are a few cases where feeding a raw food diet is not something I suggest for people to do. And I'm going to list a few of these reasons, just so that people have a better understanding of, maybe this kind of goes towards me, and this is a reason why I can say, okay, raw food is not for me. So, number one of the biggest things that I tell people when they're considering raw food for their dogs is that um, if you have children and you are worried that your child is going to um, somehow get a hold of a bowl of raw food that your dog is either finished with or has finished with, and there's little pieces left in it, because you have a busy lifestyle or you're, whatever. If you don't have the time to put the bowl down in front of the dog, watch the dog eat it, and then pick it up and put it back in the fridge or wash it, it it might not be a good idea, especially if you have children. Um, and this isn't something like, oh well, don't feed your dog raw food if you have a child because the child might try to reach their hand into the dish and snap and freak out because it's trying to get the raw food. That's not a case. That can happen with any kind of dog food. But what I'm saying is that raw food does pose a bigger hazard for people who have children, who might be, getting their fingers in there or trying to get their fingers in there. And it does pose a health risk to humans because dogs' digestive systems are not the same as ours, and our body can't handle raw food like a dog's can. Another thing that I like to keep in mind to people is that raw food is not something, like I said, you can just slap down in front of your dog, and if he doesn't finish it, it can just stay there for the day. This doesn't tend to be a problem with most dogs because they will usually eat their whole meal um, in one sitting. But if your dog is not that kind of dog, if you are finding that you are leaving the dish out and it takes the dog quite a bit of time to eat the food, if you don't have the time to go by and pick the food back up, maybe raw food is not for you. Um, I'm not going to go down to the logistics of, maybe you should get up earlier, maybe you should do this or that or the other. The plain fact of the matter is that if you don't have the ability to remove the food when your dog has a sufficient enough time to eat it, then this might pose a health issue for your dog because they might come by, 2 or 3 or 4 hours later on a hot summer day and decide, hey, I'm hungry, and eat rancid food, which is really not a good idea because although their bodies can handle raw food, they can't handle rancid meat. That's just not cool. So, that might be something that you want to keep in mind when, when you're considering switching your dog to a raw food diet. My hands are so dry. I'm so sorry. Um, Another thing that people, and I understand this from a medical standpoint, raw food is expensive, especially if you are, the type that might not have a solid job and you're living paycheck to paycheck. Um, it is a lot of money to fork out all in one shot if you are planning to go bulk, which is what most raw feeders do. They'll go to the store and they'll buy, 20 pounds of chicken wings and 20 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken, and then they'll buy, this, that, the other. And for people who don't have the funds to put all of that money out all at once, it can become very expensive very quickly. And if you can't maintain that diet, you could potentially cause your dog a lot of issues digestive-wise. You're going to have to switch your dog to another food. It could develop an allergy. Like, there's a lot of things that can go wrong if you switch back and forth between, you know, raw food, not raw food, raw food, not raw food. Now, that's not to say that you can't supplement your dog with raw food if they're eating kibble. And if that's something that you think you can finagle, then by all means, go for it. Another thing that I think people don't, um, it doesn't come up as often, I guess, is you need to make sure that your dog is able to eat raw food, in the sense that whatever you can get a hold of as far as raw food goes is compatible with their systems. And I'm not talking like the raw food aspect of this. I'm talking to those dogs who have food allergies. Um, Anybody whose dog has food allergies will likely know that um, a dog with food allergies will do better on a raw diet because there are no preservatives, there's no additives, there's no vitamin premixes, there's no processing, there's no shipping, there's no, like, you know, you go to the store, you buy the raw food, it's raw, it's frozen, you bring it home thawed and feed it to your dog. That's it. So if your dog has allergies to, let's say, chicken and beef, are usually the allergies that come up most often, and I'll probably do a video a little later about allergies and how to tell if your dog has food allergies. So let's say, for example, your dog has food allergies to chicken and to beef, and your community does not have a pet store that supplies novel raw foods. So you need to keep that in mind, that if you can't go to the grocery store and buy, let's say, turkey or duck or lamb, maybe switching your dog to raw food is not a good idea. I live in a northern community, and although it's fairly easy to get a hold of chicken and beef, lamb and duck, and then some of the really, really novel proteins are quite hard to get a hold of. I don't think I've ever seen ground lamb at the grocery store. I used to work at a Walmart, and I can say with 100% certainty I've never seen ground lamb come through the cash register. I've also very seldom see duck-related foods. It is fairly easy to get a hold of ground turkey. Most health-conscious people actually buy turkey over beef. And some dogs are okay with turkey, but that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind if you're considering switching over, because if your dog can't have chicken or beef, and that's all you can buy as far as raw food goes, then maybe you should just wait and see what your other options are. I have a customer slash client, the lady and the dog, who come in, and her dog is allergic to so many different things. I feel so bad for this dog. He is definitely allergic to chicken and to beef and to lamb. She's recently taken him off duck because she was worried that because he was allergic to chicken, and turkey is not really confirmed, but she's kind of taken him off the turkey because it's a poultry. She was worried that he may become or might be allergic to duck. He also can't have rabbit, so really her options have been very, very narrowed down. Right now she's feeding him salmon, which seems to be one of the only foods that he is solidly good on, and she just introduced elk to his diet. So if you can't get a hold of these proteins, then trying to switch your dog onto a raw food diet is really not going to work, and it's not something you should consider. So those are really my main points for why you might not want to feed your dog a raw diet. And like I said, it's not an issue of your dog not being healthy or your dog not being able to digest it, or you know, it costing you, I shouldn't say costing you more, because it is going to cost you more to buy the food. Your dog's going to eat less of the food, so it will last longer. And dogs who are fed a raw diet typically don't need to see a vet as often for other ailments because their food is more biologically appropriate. Um, so really, those aren't the issues that I have. So if you have any questions about raw food diet, please ask them. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And I hope that you consider switching your dog to a raw food diet if you haven't considered it already. If you have any questions about where to go from there, like I said, let me know. And hope you learned something.